Hey guys, and welcome to the Bad Batch Season 3, Episode 5 breakdown. I really like this episode, and I know a lot might say that it was filler, but I feel like it really established Crosshair's character arc and finally brought it, well, let's say even full circle, back to kind of where he was, but with a much more mature development to him. We start the episode with Crosshair training with AZ, the droid, and practicing his shot, as his hand is super unsteady. So why is this? This is probably due to the freezing temperatures from Season 2, where he was abandoned by the Empire, or from all the testing done on him on Mount Tantiss. AZ tells Crosshair his shooting accuracy was at 53%, as opposed to his usual probably 100 or 99. Crosshair clearly has to get his skills back and fix that shaky nerve damage somehow. Him and Omega bond a bit, and he mentions how his brothers don't trust him. They kind of time jumped a little bit into the episode, where they're all just coping with one another, and I guess they're making along somewhat. Echo arrives, and they all convene with him, and things are pretty civil. They discuss how they're going to save all the clones at the facility that her and Crosshair left behind. Now, Mount Tantiss is a super secret Imperial facility that no one knows the location to, so they decide to fire up Nala Se's datapad to get some information. I think this could lead them to finding out that tech is indeed alive there, and perhaps being experimented on. They want to see what's in the vault, and to get schematics on the entry points to the base. However, it's imperially encrypted. Crosshair tells them that if you plug it into an Imperial computer, the encryption will be bypassed. So they head back to Crosshair's previous mission on icy Barton IV. Now, we know why this episode is called The Return. There's a bunch of reasons. Echo returns, Crosshair returns with his brothers, and also his return to the ice planet. So as they prepare for their voyage, Wrecker tells Omega not to worry about Hunter, who is constantly eyeing him and watching over. He's just being very protective. Now, clearly, Crosshair's understanding of the situation here and of his own wrongdoings, as he is seen later in this episode at the end, really kind of acknowledging all of the things that he did that was wrong, which we're going to get to and talk about, as well as the incorporation of Asajj Ventress. Wrecker gives Crosshair his old armor, and he observes it. As they land on the ice terrain of Barton IV, they exit the ship, and Crosshair is wearing his old armor, and it looks really epic. As they get to the abandoned depot, they divert power and hook up the datapad. Crosshair walks off into a room as the boys configure the console, and he picks up the frozen clone trooper helmets from Commander Mayday and his men who patrolled the station in Season 2. They unfortunately didn't make it. As Hunter watches, he starts to observe that there's more to Crosshair than meets the eye, that maybe there's some human in him after all, or at least something that he's not telling them, a story to be understood. Later outside, he confronts him, where Crosshair tells him that he betrayed the Empire by killing an Imperial officer. He told him he risked everything to tell him and warn him. He blames Hunter for his failure, which caused Omega to be captured, and they almost fight as Crosshair tells him the only reason that he's mad is because it was him who saved Omega, and not Hunter. At this point, a massive ice worm breaks out from underneath the ice and tries to eat them all. So the team work together like old times to reactivate the system that sends a frequency out to keep the creature at bay, kind of like a dog whistle. So Omega, Echo, and Wrecker work together at the station, where Hunter and Crosshair are out on the ice fighting for their lives and working together. They eventually overcome the beast by working together, and they remember that they are brothers after all. It was a really beautiful moment to see the two boys come together finally, and it reminded me of this concept art from Revenge of the Sith, where Anakin and Obi-Wan, amidst their duel, were supposed to fight some massive giant creature. And this was supposed to be like their last sort of team-up, even though they were trying to kill each other, to defeat this monstrous fire beast. I feel like if that were to even happen, it could have been pretty cool to see the dynamic of them together once again. But of course, that was just a concept art, and it didn't actually make it into the film. However, it's cool that here, they used some sort of inspiration from that, or just the idea of coming together to oppose a larger creature. So here's where we get some really big character-changing dialogue. Crosshair tells Hunter that he's done things he regrets, that he thought he was being a good soldier with following the Empire, and Hunter tells him no one really understood what was happening back then. He regrets things too, and all they can do is to keep trying to be better. This is the whole motif of Star Wars, that no matter what you've done in life, as long as you correct your ways and change, that it's never too late. This is the story of redemption, of Anakin Skywalker, of Darth Vader. the hero's journey, and the mantra for life. I think the next episode will be about Asajj Ventress, as this one ends on a very happy note, as they now are all back together and they get the information that they need to find Mount Tantiss and free the clones, as well as perhaps finding Tech, who I really do believe is still alive and being tested on. In fact, I think Tech might even become, perhaps, a very powerful antagonist of the season. And maybe they're going to try and work out a way to get him out of this mind control or whatever is going on with him. And it's going to be a very heartfelt moment. Personally, I think that there's still going to be some sort of a sacrifice. I believe that someone will probably end themselves in order to save another. This could be Tech, this could be Echo, this could be Wrecker, it could be Crosshair. I don't think Hunter will go, but that would be pretty impactful if he does. I think the best, safest bet here is that either Crosshair, after being redeemed now, is probably going to sacrifice himself, which will end up in full redemption. That's kind of like the poetry of Star Wars, is that whenever a character who is good becomes evil and then becomes good again, they usually do so through sacrifice. And this is why I think Crosshair may not make it. Now, what I would want to happen is that Crosshair does survive, that Crosshair sees that one of his brothers sacrificed themselves because they see the good in him. And this, of course, would also echo many moments in Star Wars. Either way, I don't think the Bad Batch are going to end all fully intact and happy. I think the season is probably going to end a little bit melancholy, with some sacrifices having to take place. Otherwise, there's just too many clones running around the galaxy, and we just can't really have that. If you do remember, in Season 2, it was teased that there was going to be a very sad moment, a very sad ending. Perhaps they meant that's going to happen in Season 3. As you know, they're changing scripts and stories around all the time, so it could very well be that's what's going to happen in this season. As for Asajj Ventress, somehow her being back in the picture, I don't know how they're going to do it, but I believe they could if she's a bounty hunter who would be hired to find the Bad Batch, and once she does, ends up empathizing with them and joins them. And that would be a pretty cool team and team up. In the end, Vader could be called to actually defeat all of them, and this could maybe be the send-off that we've been waiting for Asajj Ventress, if they do bring her back, which, to be honest, I hope they don't, because I think her death was really meaningful in Dark Disciple. However, Dave Filoni doesn't really care too much about the books and other sorts of media besides the movies, so he's really open to doing what he wants, so I'm looking forward to seeing what he actually does with her. Unless it's a flashback, of course, but I don't really think that would happen. The incorporation of Boba Fett and Fennec Shand are also very prominent in this season, and of course, Cad Bane, as all bounty hunters will probably be called upon to find the Bad Batch and eliminate them or bring them in. As Hemlock said, he has access to the entire Empire and its resources. I think things are ramping up really well for the Bad Batch. I love the pacing of this. It's very fast. It's not dragged out. It's not slow. There isn't any filler. I'm really having fun with it. I hope you guys are too. Thanks so much for being part of the watch parties. Leave a like on this video if you enjoyed it, and find me on Instagram at Star Wars Theory. Until the next episode, remember, my fellow Jedi and Sith friends, the Force will be with you, always.